My question is, how is contrast attracted? Meaning,
well, from desire. You set that into motion when you were called here into a leading edge environment, because you understood that without contrast there is no focus, there is no decision, there is no asking, there is no expansion.
Okay.
So you just accepted it as it's like choice. The buffet at this hotel is contrast. Just about everything imaginable is there. And so it's about choices. Contrast doesn't mean only wanted and unwanted. It is varying degrees of wanted.
I guess what I'm saying is, if you're, let's say I've been walking through a dream, it's been amazing, I've really been enjoying life, and great things have been coming, but contrast still happens all the time.
Good.
Right? Which is awesome. I'm just so curious to know. I'll give you an example. I was having a joyful time, and in the middle of the joyful time I fell, busted my knee, which was fine. It wasn't even that it hurt, but it wasn't, it didn't bring me down too much. But I'm just so curious how, although you're sort of in that...
All right, so so conceptually contrast is something that you understand that is of value. And when you look at it in its big general sense, you got to know what you don't want to know what you do want. So that's easy to understand. So then you have an experience where you break your knee, you hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And then you ask a more specific question: why did I experience that contrast? Which the way we're asking you to ask that question today is, what was going on in my grid? Mm-hmm. I want to make the association between that grid filling in and what was going on before that grid filled in. Because when you make the association between that grid filling in and how you were feeling before the grid filled in, then next time you're doing that thing before the grid fills in that's going to lead to a grid filling in that way, you can make a more determined, deliberate observation and intention about it. Mm-hmm. In other words, it's much easier to shift vibration before the grid fills in than after. But most people don't do much real deliberate thinking until something is manifested that they would prefer not to have lived.
Yeah.
So the answer to the question is, why would I experience a part of contrast that I don't want to experience? The answer is because you were offering a vibration that matched it, and apparently were unaware that you were offering a vibration that matched it, and the discomfort of offering the vibration that was alien to what you wanted wasn't significant enough to you, so you kept doing it until you experienced something big enough to make you redefine what your criteria is for gridding. Mm-hmm. We offered a story last week. Esther left San Antonio sort of in a hurry. She packed hurriedly. She was sort of following her whim, and as she was on her way to the airport, she realized that she had some new credit cards that were replacing those that were expiring, and she didn't bother to look for them. She sort of kind of knew where they were, but it was like more trouble than it was worth, so she kept putting it off, and then she didn't do it. So now she has this vibration going on about, oh, my Visa and my MasterCard are only going to be good for another couple of days, and then I've got my American Express card, but who knows, they don't always take it everywhere I go. So she began to worry. Now, she didn't begin to worry there. There was more to that. She's got this pile of stuff that she meant to sort and didn't take the time to do it. She's got this pile of stuff that she doesn't want anybody else to sort, and that's a whole other thing going on. And so there's more in that grid that kept filling in and kept filling in. In other words, not taking the time to find the cards was the grid filling in. But it didn't matter too much because, and then realizing that she only had her American Express card, and then looking at the service stations and different places that she was going and wondering, feeling a little trepidation about whether she was going to be able to use the only card she had with her, was more gridding, and then the grid filling in. And then she went to Starbucks and left her only credit card there. The grid filling in. It was a perfect grid filling in. There was no question in Esther's mind how it happened. Now, you're asking the question, why the contrast? And we want to say, because the universe is responding to what you're doing. And that's like asking why water flows downhill. It just does. Gravity is a law, and it just does. And the sooner you accept these natural momentums, then the more you can use them to your personal advantage. So then she was at Nordstrom's buying shoes, and that's when she discovered that her card was not in her wallet. So she called the Starbucks, and they didn't have it. More of the grid filling in. In other words, the grid filling in. Well, it was only a day later before she had a new card. It was not excessively uncomfortable. But the reason that we tell the story is because there is no question in Esther's mind why that more exaggerated contrast appeared in her life, because the answer is always the same. Because there was a seed of it that you encouraged with thought. It's like taking a seed of something unwanted and tending to it carefully with negative stories.
That seed, though, where does that? Do you know what I mean?
The seed comes because for there to be the awareness of light, there has to be the awareness of dark. For there to be something that is wanted, there has to be unwanted. In other words, every subject is two subjects, wanted and not wanted. There is not a source of darkness, but there is the absence of the light. There is not a source of the unwanted contrast, but there is the disallowance of the wanted, you see. Mm-hmm. And so don't spend too much time trying to figure out where it came from or why it came. Just accept that you have creative control to guide yourself toward what is wanted. There is not some out of the vortex, maniacal, wanting to get even with you consciousness that is putting unwanted things in your path to test you in any way. When you burn your leg, you burned your leg. You did it. When you hurt your knee, you hurt your knee. When you leave your credit card, you leave your credit card. In other words, the unwanted stuff that happens is purely, from the best way we can say it is lack of focus. You know better. You know better because you can feel it. But a lot of times you're willing to put up with stuff. We want you to get so incrementally tuned to what feels good that you tune yourself in those early subtle stages so that more of your life can be fleshing out with the things that are wonderful. In other words, we'd far rather that you discover that you have an agility and a clarity and a strength and an ability to leap higher or to serve faster or to have a physical experience beyond anything that you've had before. We want that contrast for you. We want the greatness to be realized, not the unwanted. Mm-hmm. Because that's contrast too. Do you know there's contrast between something that is so good you can just hardly bear it and something that's better? That's contrast. Do you know that there's contrast between what's out there on that buffet? There's contrast. There are marshmallows that you can dip in the chocolate fountain. There is pineapple that you can dip. There are gummy bears you can dip in the chocolate fountain. You can dip just about anything you want in the chocolate fountain. And all of you have a different idea. Esther sat there and watched with unbelievable amusement as her dear friends brought back a variety of things that they had dipped in the chocolate fountain and attempted to verbally explain to one another which was the better thing to have dipped in the chocolate fountain. And it's kind of like that. Life is sort of like a chocolate fountain. In other words, you can dip anything in it and it'll turn out good.
Thank you.
Second row. You are the one.
I'm working on it.